Swabara put out a statement and said the BOT are in charge. A day afterwards, the other faction said, "Hey, nothing like that," because from the Adolfo Swabara official statement, it claimed that the other party and its members had been suspended by Supreme Court, and then the other part came back. But generally, what's your general thoughts on the judgment and how this judgment is currently affecting this party?
Thank you very much, Emeka, for that question. I think that when the judgment was actually read, by the lead justice of the Supreme Court, that is Justice Stephen Ada, who led other 4 justices, on that fateful day. That was precisely on the 30th of April, 2026. A lot of us were glued to listen attentively to the issues that the justices were actually going to also decide on, as far as the cases that were brought before them was equally concerned in the true sense of the word. I would agree with the elder statesman, Aduba, for mentioning the fact that there is confusion. But I would also want to add that in the midst of confusion, there can be fusion of interests. If you get to a point where you are able to galvanize this confusion and bringing out the various sides of consent into one, then you are likely going to be out of the wood. I think what they are battling with at the moment is time. So again, when you look at that judgment, you could see that there were 5 justices on that particular panel, as it were. 3 gave the the majority of the judgment, and that is Justice Stephen Ada himself. You have Justice Chioma Iheme, Justice Mohammed, and then you have 2 dissenting judgment, and that's what perhaps Professor Aduba is also talking about, that indeed the judiciary should not also be involved in settling political party activities, as it were. And that is the one that came from Justice Sadiq Umar and then Justice Tsamani, as it were, to be able to support the position of Professor Aduba. But let me also put this into context so that we can also be able to understand what is the definition of confusion. Let me start from the state level. Definition of confusion is where you had 2 different spokespersons of factional parties, talking and putting out statements out there. One by one that is of the weaker faction, the other, the existing structure of structuralists of the party, as it were, on the other hand, because up to now the structure has not been established. But I think that I received that judgment with hope in one way, because for me, clearly, I'm not a member of the PDP, as it were, but as an analyst, I try to see where the light can also be seen at the end of the tunnel, as far as that judgment is concerned. I need to put this into context. Emeka, you will recall that on the 24th of July, 2025, the 101st meeting of the National Executive Council of the PDP was held in Abuja at the National Secretariat. That's the Wadata House. Chief among the decisions that were taken as of that time was the selection of a choosing of a date, and also the issue of zoning. And the 12 states that as of that time were unable to also carry out their congresses, as it were. And major decisions were taken at that 101 meeting of NEC in the true sense of the word. Now, 1 month after that particular meeting, while they were preparing for the Ibadan 15th and 16th November convention, something happened. The 102nd NEC meeting also held, and that was precisely on the 24th of August, 2025. And chief among the decision was the correspondences that they had sent to the Independent National Electoral Commission with regards to preparations to the November convention in the true sense of the word. And I'm giving this background so that we can follow part of the things that informed the judgment of the justices of the Supreme Court, as it were. Now, fast forward that to October. Again, they were also able to discover that certain individuals who had hitherto agreed to be part of the system had gone to court to go and challenge the proposed Ibadan 15 and 16 November National Convention, as it were. Who were these 3 persons? They had Senator Samuel Anyanwu, they had Barrister Kamaluddin Ajibade, and also they had Honorable Umar. And who were these persons? The organizing secretary the national advisory legal advisor of the party, as well as the secretary of the party, as it were, as of that time. Now, they went to court to be able to stop the 15th and 16th November convention of the party that was proposed for Ibadan in Oyo State as of that time. Now, again, if you follow the whole thing, the court later decided, I think sometimes back on the 30th of October, decided and said that, look, the convention that was also going to take place in Ibadan was set aside, and that any attempt at that particular convention can equally mean that can further be set aside by the law in the true sense of the word. Now, the PDP as of that time insisted and went for that particular convention in the true sense of the word. In fact, it was barely about 2 weeks to that convention. On the 30th of October, you had just about 15 days or thereabout to go to the convention in Ibadan. Now, these people insisted, instead of saying that, look, we will not go for that particular convention, decided to go for that particular convention. And indeed, the convention held in Ibadan with 5 governors out of the 8 PDP governors in attendance, including Barrister Caleb Mutfwang, who was a former member of the PDP and governor of Plateau State in the true sense of the word. Now, if you follow that particular history, you could also see that, going by that, along the line, Samuel Anyanwu and the other 2 individuals were suspended by the party as it is. And indeed, fast forwarding that to the judgment that we got just on Thursday, you could see that the Supreme Court did certain things. One of the things they did was to be able to uphold the setting aside of that particular convention, as it were. And what that also means was that the Turaki-led PDP National Working Committee was also set aside in the true sense of the word. And in fact, the court did not also acknowledge the existence of any of those particular leadership in the true sense of the word, according to them. Now, going further, that same day, the BOT chairman, and that is distinguished Senator Wabara, who is a BOT chairman, stepped in to ensure that they take control of the leadership of the party, as it were. What gave them the power to do so? Section 13 of the PDP constitution, Section 31 of the PDP constitution, and Section 32 of the PDP constitution readily provides that the BOT is the conscience of the party. And the BOT, in exercising its function, can step in to be able to ensure stability within the party in the true sense of the word. So they move in. And that was what informed the meeting, that took place yesterday by the BOT, to be able to identify, based on the provisions of the constitution of the PDP, whether they should be able to find a way out of the entire thing that were also said and decided by the justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in the true sense of the word. So they held a meeting yesterday, and part of the things that the meeting achieved yesterday, in my own opinion as an analyst, was the fact that they were also able to get to third majority of the members who could decide that a NEC be convened, to decide the next phase of the fate of the party, as it were. So they met yesterday, and they got the 2/3 majority, which also means that as of this morning, the NEC of the PDP is also expected to meet in the true sense of the word, which will be championed by the BOT, as it were, which will provide a leeway for the party in terms of where they can move next in the true sense of it. So for me, clearly, with regards to the issue of PDP, it has shown for me clearly that there's a little light, at the end of the tunnel. What is disturbing at the moment is whether after today's meeting, they will be able to galvanize the different interests that we've seen at the state levels, as it were, where we have also seen that spokespersons of the different factions of the PDP in the state have issued statements. Dr. Choji, who is on the other side, has said that, look, members should be calm. Let them wait and see what will come out today, so that they can decide whether caretaker can also be set at the state levels in the true sense of the word. Now, on the other side of the PDP, that's the weaker faction, they have also issued a statement and say, listen not to those particular group of people, as it were. So the conscience of the party have a duty today to decide the next direction of the party. That is for PDP. Right. But in the issue of...
so hold on. So let's get to Duba quickly, because you're on the phone line. Prof, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, quickly, because I know you've been here for a while. For the PDP, like Mr. Luka Pampi said, would you say or would you agree with him that there is light at the end of the tunnel? Because the factions, the Toraki-led faction, which have been obviously declared null and void based on the fact that the convention, according to the Supreme Court, is not legal, is there any form of stability to expect? May 10th is when parties are supposed to submit the names or the registered members' names to the INEC. Can we expect some level of stability in the PDP, or do you think this ongoing ruckus will continue for a very long time?
Well, you see, I'm sad that I didn't have the opportunity of meeting Luka Pampe in person, but I always admired his depth of knowledge, details in analyzing issues. So I really commend him. I'm so happy I'm sharing this platform with him. But maybe he has seen a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's a torchlight he will use in seeing that light. Because if you look at the history of PDP, they are completely finished. There's a song, they say, non-dignities, a song you sing for the dead. The party is dead. There is no question of resuscitating that party. You can even see that even at the dying minute, when you thought that with this decision, they will now put their house in order, what is happening? The two parts, do you think Wike is going to concede to anybody? He is not going to concede to anybody. Do you think that suddenly they will learn a lesson that all of them are going down the pit? No, they won't. And if you look at the PDP as it is, how can you have a party where the key leaders of the party had sold the party? The party with Wike there is not going to bring up anybody who can challenge the current administration. So PDP, as it is now, is no longer an opposition party. It's only an opposition party in the papers. As far as reality is concerned, no sensible person who has political ambition should still be there. And it is now making sense to me while some governors who ordinarily weren't credited with a lot of common sense and intelligence, I can now see what they saw and decided to leave the PDP. And now I regret abusing a lot of them because of leaving PDP. I can now see that it was very wise for them to have left PDP because any of them that had any ambition would have been finished because this matter is not yet true. Nweke and Co are not through with the destruction. And then look, time is not even on their side. They are going to head to court again. And the court processes take a long time. By the time they finish deciding which part will work convention, which one will present candidates, elections will have been over. So this is just, I admire Luka Pampe. I like his sense of optimism. But I can tell you that I cannot see any light at the end of the tunnel. Any person who is wise should look for another party now because I can see in my house now, and I'm watching even Arise News. I can see Nweke bellowing. I can't see him conceding to anybody. And since Nweke is there, that party is dead. That's my personality.
But sir, the PDP has always been a major political force. So there's a chance that they can actually stand and fight this and recover and actually have a candidate for the coming elections.
Madam, if you don't mind, I can ask you now, who are the current members of that PDP now? Who are the current members? Who are going to galvanize the fund they look for election? Do you think election is a joke? It is these governors that gather money that they use for election purposes. How many governors are still in the PDP? The one of Bauchi has left. The only person that is still there now is the one of Oyo State. Osun State has left. So tell me now, where will they? It's a carcass. PDP is dead. Okay, look at Plateau. Everybody has hope on Plateau. Look at Plateau. Look at Taraba. So where is the PDP again? Look at even Benin. Look at even Enugu State. So where is the PDP? Anybody who doesn't have hope, I like people who have optimism in abundance, people who are always hoping for the best. I think that is good for life. But to be quite frank with you, being realistic, anybody who has any political ambition should run as fast as possible away from that party. The party is toxic. It's going nowhere. For this 2027 election, maybe for other elections, but for this one that is coming, I think it's finished. They are finished.
Mr. Luka Papa, you're going to say something about it.
Yes, I think Professor Aduba has also been able to, in one way or the other, agree with me with his last statement, as it were. You see, the reality about it is that life does not end at 2027 general elections, as it were. And to that extent, I think that the PDP can pick up its pieces and move ahead, as it were. Still have a chance before the 2027 general election. I think where there will be difficulty for the PDP is when it comes to the national outlook in terms of whether they will be able to field a candidate for the presidential election in the true sense of the word. I think the PDP has gone through worse stages in the past than in line with also what they are experiencing at the moment. You will recall, for example, from the formation of that particular party, there have been hurdles. In fact, it is a snake that has refused to die. And I will be the last person sitting on this table to say that any political party that is passing through these challenges is completely finished like Dodo, as the Yoruba would also put it in the true sense of the word. I am an optimist, and I believe clearly that even at the moment, they still have a chance. Maybe a little difference between me and the respected professor is the fact that I have also been into the room of politics. And I understand how politics play out, how politicians can resolve their issues. I also agree with him that, yes, for other elections, they have chances to do so. But even for this election, if they do decide that they will be able to resolve, problems are resolved by human beings and are equally created by human beings. Sure. Wike is not the conscience of the party. And Wike is not the supreme leader and all in all. Where was Wike when the 7 individuals met at the late Chiroma's house in Kaduna to be able to decide the fate of PDP in 1998, for example? Where was Wike when the PDP was formed on the 19th of August, 1998, for example? His name was not there. Was Wike among the G20 people that were invited for the meeting in Kaduna? He was not. He was not even among the 18 that were later invited as of that time. Go and ask the elder statesman today, who is a Lonko and holding a royal position in Kwanpan. That is Yahaya Kwande, who was part of that particular G18, as it were. Where was Wike when the G34 was formed in the true sense of the word? But again, you can also understand that as of 1999, when elections were conducted, let me take you back, 5th of December, 1998, when elections were conducted into the local government, the PDP had 471 seats out of 28 states. By 1999, when elections were completed, 29th of May, the PDP had already 21 governors. That was Uhuru for the PDP. But going into 2015, when the PDP lost at the national level, it went through one of the most challenging periods of its life as of that time. How many people remember the coffin that was also carried around to show that the PDP was already in the cemetery as of that time? But it revived itself. Who revived the party as of that time? Who were the people who hailed to the party? You had the likes of Wike himself. You had the likes of the former governor of Ekiti, as it were. But going further, you could see exactly that, yes, they had their challenges, worse challenges along the way, but they were able to revive themselves. And I think that the death of PDP will only mean the exit of the entire BOT at the moment, because it is the conscience of the party. So I agree that clearly they have challenges at the moment. I agree that it might be difficult for them to get out of it and field a candidate for the presidential position in Nigeria today. I equally agree that for governors, it might be also difficult for them to do so, in the true sense of the word, because as we're talking now, if you look at the darker side of the entire thing, you know that the governor of Bauchi State, who was Hitato, before now was the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, has also moved to another party, the APM, as it were, that carries cassava as its logo at the moment, that have a belief that, look, it's a no-godfather party, in the true sense of it. Today you have the only governor, which is the governor of Oyo, and it's an existing governor. The Turaki group has also gone to ADC to show loyalty at that particular side. But the question we must ask ourselves is, if the BOT is able able to address the issues. Do they still have hope in the future? Is this certainly going to be the point where the head of the snake will be cut off? And I'll tell you authoritatively that the answer is no. The party will still continue. Whether it is for this election, for elections in the future, the party will continue. Right. But indeed, pessimists will tell you clearly, and I will understand with them, given the frustrations that come with the party along, this discourse that we've seen all over this period of time, people have the right to say that no, that the party cannot revive itself. But remember what I said from my opening statement. I said, out of confusion, you can have fusion. And that is when people come together and decide on the fate of their party. They will come out of the shelves in the true sense of it. For governors who run from the PDP, I'll say good luck to them. Let them go there. But there are also challenges in other parties that they are moving. I'm not a member of the PDP. I don't have even sympathy for any of the parties when it comes to issues of their own conflict in the true sense of the word. But I will tell you that for posterity and for history, that clearly speaking, the PDP, as it is presently constituted, have the yam and the knife in their hand. It is their decision to either come out of the problem that they are in, or it is their decision to also not come out of that particular point that they are.
And Prof, because of want of time, let's quickly pivot to the big story that happened yesterday.
Yes.
It was always in the circulation.
Yes.
It was about Peter Obi
Exactly.
and Rabi Musa Kwankwaso ditching the ADC for
Yes.
the ADC. Prof, quickly, what's your thoughts on that? I know you've always spoken about Peter Obi. First question is, does this in any way affect our 2027 elections? Because some have argued that the opposition are supposed to be united. And if there's disunity in the opposition, it makes the re-election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu next year an easy peasy and smooth run for him.
Yes. Let me say something. Well, you know, as a lawyer, you know, when you want to advise a client, you don't speculate. You are very, very specific. Let me tell you one thing. If Peter Obi and Kwankwaso, if they can put their acts together, they have what you may call organic followers. People who will follow them without expecting money. If they can put their acts together, they can become a very, very strong opposition. But you see, the problem is that politics in Nigeria is highly monetized. It's fund. And you know, all these things they are talking about, Tinubu and the rest, is the funding, is the state funding they need. So if they are going to challenge him, and today he scored a big, he scored highly because he has been able to push out Obi and Kwankwaso out of ADC, making it easier for him. Because if Atiku was able to swallow his pride and all those old cargoes who were there, if they could say, let us give these two younger men, Kwankwaso and Obi, let us back them with our finances, it would have been a formidable obstacle. But today, by Obi and Kwankwaso leaving the ADC, it has made the next election far easier for Tinubu. Far easier. Because if you have looked at last time, if you considered Atiku's vote and Obi's vote joined together, they would have pushed out Tinubu. But because it was difficult for them to come together, that was why they lost. And the same thing I am predicting is playing out already. The two people that ought to come together that have organic votes, now, because of selfishness, have decided to part company. And I can't see Kwankwaso and Obi mustering enough resources to give a strong fight to APC.
Well, was that a wise decision for them to leave? Like you said, because of the fact that together they most likely will not have enough votes. Shouldn't they have stayed back at the ADC and found a way to make it work so that they, alongside Alhaji Atiku Abubakar with the ADC, can garner enough votes to beat the incumbent?
Yeah, but you see, from information available, all information indicate that ADC was purposely formed for Atiku, as a platform for Atiku to use. And you know, he's He has enough resources to put there.
But couldn't they have waited under 4 years for them to get their turn?
It's not a question of getting turn. You see, if you are a politician, I'm sure, look at Pompey, no, he's a police, he says he has tried. But he knows money does a lot of things. A lot of our politicians don't have conscience. You know, the politics we are playing is not politics of ideology. It's politics of convenience. People who are jumping ship are not jumping ship because, they disagree with the policy. No. Policy has nothing to do with it. It's just that it makes it easier. That's why you could see a governor saying that, let me align with the federal government so that Plateau will be properly represented, forgetting that in the derivation formula, in the formula for sharing of the national cake, states have percentages. The president cannot stop any state from getting its own due allocation. But all of a sudden, they are all jumping. They are very wise. They know what is at stake. They want second term. Even their Oyo State governor that is proving to be stubborn is in the last stage. He's in his second term. Nothing to lose. That is why you can take that risk. Those who are going to for second term, like the one in Enugu State, he couldn't afford. That's why he jumped. The one in Plateau State couldn't afford. That's why certainty is not speculation. It is not speculation. So let me tell you, this election is becoming easier and easier for the incumbent because the opposition is not showing signs that they realize the danger they are in. They are still quibbling. They are still quarreling. Imagine by now, PDP will have learned a bitter lesson that let us come together, but you now see them issue. So let me tell you, for all intents and purposes, PDP and I will want to be called back after this election. PDP is dead and buried. It's after this election, they will now start picking their pieces. But if for the election that is coming next year, PDP is not in the equation at all. Anybody who thinks they are, I'm willing to drop a bet. PDP is going nowhere in the next election. And I think their performance is going to be woeful. AGC has a little bit chance. Obi and Kwankwaso, if they can patch up, what they need more than any other thing is funding. Having these organic people who are shouting at them social media is very good. But translating those social media presence into real. I am an election observer. I know what happens on ground. A lot of money is involved. Running an election in Nigeria is not something you just say. It is money. It is money driven. And I can tell you that sometimes you get so disappointed. People you ordinarily thought that they were men of integrity, you will see how they sell themselves so cheaply because of money. So, in all fairness, as an analyst or roadside practicing analyst, because I'm not a journalist, I can tell you that the road to 2027 is becoming a lot clearer, becoming easier for the incumbent, and which is sad.
Mr. Lukapampi, your thoughts?
Well, I think that clearly speaking, politicians will always find a home that they will be convenient in the true sense of the word. When Peter Obi moved to the ADC, as it were, he probably clicked it, but he did not clock it because there were also people in that particular party who also had interest in the true sense of the word. A number of people don't even know their history. That indeed, this Atiku Abubakar that you are looking at, who was also part of the G34, as it were, has always held on to the fact that anywhere he moved in, he would want to have a way as far as the issues are concerned. But indeed, nobody would have stopped anybody from a contest. I think one problem with Peter Obi is the fact that Peter Obi has always run away from a very constructive contest. And I want somebody to challenge me on that in the true sense of the word, particularly at the level of the primaries, as it is. Of course, you know that the ADC wasn't his first political party. Yes. You go back right up to ABGA, you be able to see it. You also know how he emerged as the candidate of the Labour Party as of that time, as it were. And indeed, moving to the ADC as it is, even from the one that you moved to that party, and I saw the other gladiators moving to that party, I said to myself that this might not also be a convenient place for Peter Obi in the true sense of the word. Because if you are going to throw a very clean, clear contest at that level, you expect that all the gladiators that are there are likely going to put their hats in the ring. You have the likes of the former governor of Rivers State, as it were. You have the likes of the former vice president Atiku himself. You have the likes of Peter Obi, as it were. You have the likes of Kwankwaso, who joined the party as it is. And you don't expect that each of these persons were only going there as seat warmers or bench warmers, as it were. They were ready to be able to slug it out as far as the issues are concerned. And there is something that a lot of people do not understand with the politics of the ADC. The ADC did not come out at this moment with the intention of zoning. And I want somebody to challenge, particularly at the national level. I think the major ideology is to win election. Is to win election irrespective of where the candidate is coming from, whether it is from the north or the east. Maybe that was a point that Peter Obi missed in the true sense of the word.
What do you mean by he missed?
He missed that point because a lot of us thought that it will go to the south by zoning.
But then again, some would argue that Peter Obi Kwankwaso on the ticket is a more viable, winnable ticket.
Very well. I agree with you. But you see, before you get to the general election, you have to win the primary election.
But if ADC wants to win an election, why don't you go with your most viable candidate instead of going through the long route of a primary? If you know, for example, based on public opinions and public conversations, that Obi Kwankwaso is a more viable ticket, why don't you just go with that consensus ticket and forgo the whole
Parties don't
primaries?
go, political parties don't run only on public opinion. They have their internal management system that determines who become what. And in a democracy, you don't impose on people. You allow people the freedom to run. And that's why Section 40 of 1999 Constitution, as amended, allow for freedom of assembly. The association of persons in those groups defines their ability to slug it out when it comes to issues of election, as it is. But do not also forget that, indeed, Kwankwaso and Peter Obi might have felt that the best bet for them, rather than waiting to see what actually will happen in that party, is to move to the Siriake Dixon's party, as it were. That was also formed, I think, in 2017 with the promoters. It went into litigations too about its logo that resembled the APC until the court also decided that, look, they had a clean slate to be able to write. That is the Nigerian Democratic Congress, as it is, which is the party that Peter Obi and Kwankwaso has moved to. But I think that, clearly speaking, they were more terrifying to, quote and unquote, people who care to know, while they were all together in one basket under the ADC. But now that they have moved to that particular political party, I think that there might be a little bit of relief by the ruling party to say that, look, now we have a clean coat to be able to slash them, and get our way as far as the 2027 general election is concerned. But I think that, clearly speaking, that might have also been their best bet as far as the issues are concerned.
Is Peter Obi selfish for leaving a political party that offered him or that offered Nigerians a better chance of upseating the incumbent?
Well, positive selfishness in political parties is allowed. And I add the adjective positive because every activity within political party, quote and unquote, may look selfish, as it were, in the true sense of the word. Because everybody would also want the opportunity to get there. But don't also forget that the fact that Peter Obi has also moved also showed that, yes, in my own opinion, an opportunity for him to see how he can also exercise that franchise and find a vehicle that will lead him to that particular point in the true sense of the word. But don't also forget, Peter Obi was the running mate to Atiku at the time.
Yes,
okay?
in PDP.
Yes, in PDP. Don't also forget, Peter Obi contested single-handedly, as it were, under the Labour Party. He moved to the ADC. Now he has moved to
the
NDC, as it were. But whatever it is, the question a lot of people are asking is, does party really matter when it comes to vehicle of getting to political position? Yes, to the person contesting it, it matters because you have to go through a political party. We don't have an independent candidacy in Nigeria today. But to the outsider, who is at a moment waiting to see where that candidate move in, is it important to him that he remain in the former party? It doesn't make a lot of sense to him. He will follow the candidate wherever the candidate moves. But I think, clearly speaking, the whole thing should not be on the domain of the political gladiators. And I think that we're always getting it wrong here.
What do you mean?
The PDP was at a time enjoying the present position that the APC is enjoying.
Yes,
Did the miracle not happen?
it did happen.
Did they also sustain the 50 to 60 years they promised they were going to be in power?
But then again, the APC had a lot of stalwarts who came together to upset the PDP. On the other hand, the APC right now, the oppositions are split into different units.
I
Because-
agree with you. Yes,
Yes.
the opposition is not putting its acts in order. And I will give you more statistics at the moment. As of last count, the PDP had only 14 senators in the National Assembly. The APC had about 83 senators and 231 members of House of Reps. We don't know what will happen as of tomorrow, in the true sense of the word. As of the convention of 15 and 16 November, PDP had 8 governors. Only
now-
5 governors attended the convention in Ibadan.
Right now, they have one.
Okay. 3 other governors absconded. One of the governors that absconded was the governor of Osun State, who later moved to Accord Party. To everybody, you say it's done deal. Okay, but what are the people saying? And this is where the fundamental is. This is where the conversation that I expect
When you say the people, like the average Nigerian,
yes, the average Nigerian.
in this conversation around politics and election,
Yes.
given like Professor Duba mentioned,
Yes.
the high influence of finances
Yes.
in electioneering process, do the Nigerian voice, air quotes, does it really matter above the political parties and what they do?
Of course, it
in
matters.
process?
The office of the citizen is the highest. How much did the APC had at the time that they contested with the PDP? How much did the APC had at the time they contested with the PDP? I think that history will always repeat itself, whether for the good or bad intention. The point I'm making here is that, look, this is the time that some of us also need to talk to the electorate. There are fantastic candidates in the APC, don't get me wrong. There are fantastic candidates in other political parties, as you mentioned. Resources and money plays a very significant role. But if the orientation on the part of the people becomes so intense that people take their destiny into their hands, rather than the 3,015 and the loaf of bread that they give you in the queue to go and vote, then I'll tell you for free that I will continue to remain in this political slavery
All right,
as
sir.
long as time will count itself.
Let's pick a first call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Your name and your location. You have 30 seconds.
No problem. My name is Mazio Kurafo.
Mazi, 30 seconds, please go
Calling
on.
from. All right. You see, the politics we have in Nigeria is politics of money and power. These are the 2 cardinal things and ego. Now, if Nigeria continues this way, I bet we cannot, unless Nigerian politicians decide to take politics as a vocation, not as occupation. As far as they're taking it as occupation, gentlemen, forget it. We cannot achieve anything. Mazio Kurafo from
Thank you.
Obu Education
Thank
Center.
you
Have
for
a great day. Enjoy.
Thank you for calling, Mazi. Prof, I know you're there. In 1 minute, I wanted to ask you, there have been conversations about the role Atiku is playing in all of this. Some have said he's intentionally or unintentionally killing the opposition. Do you agree with that sentiment, that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has been more of a problem to opposition politics in Nigeria than a help?
Well, you see, I want to look at it a little bit differently. You see, the people love or hate Atiku. One of the things you will appreciate is that he wants to put his money where his mouth is. See, the problem I have with people like my brother Peter is that they don't want to invest their money. They want to reap where they didn't sow. So you see, it's most unfair for somebody to pull out his resources and then you now say, I'm going to do democracy, let him stay aside. It doesn't work that way. What is working for Peter Obi worked for Buhari. They are a brand name. People love them for the way they go about their lives is an example for others. But the problem is, when the chips are down in politics, here's money. People must be willing to sow, to be patient enough, to build a party. You don't always want when somebody has finished cooking food, you're always going to be invited to just come and dine without putting something in. So this is the problem I have with the P2B model of politics, whereby he wants his brand name, very, very beautiful brand name, but when put your money where your mouth is,
all right,
white looking is dominating everybody.
Prof, let's speak. Prof, please hold on. Let's speak this last call. Prof, please. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Judy, you have 20 seconds to hear your thoughts. Okay, let's go.
Our guest has spoken very, very well, and the truth of the matter is that you start somewhere in politics before you achieve, and you have to spend money. That's the truth of the matter. So when you spend money in politics, you get what you want.
Thank you so much for calling. We've got, I want to pick more call. Your final words, Luka Pampi. I would love to talk more, but we are very much out of time.
Well,
Final
exactly.
words in 10
I
seconds.
think that until we get to a point where our politics is not defined by our monetary gains, we're not going to get it right. And I still stand on my ground. I had a lot of people talking about money. I understand that money is also important in politics. But how many of these governors that are also jumping from one party to the APC had money at the time they contested? Have they also forgotten about the votes of the people in the true sense of the word? And this is a fundamental question. So I still insist that while money is also important and that people also need to spend money to get to that particular position, it is also important to take the conversation to the people so that the people will be the final deciders of what happened at the end of the day. And we must stand by this. And I think that going further, this issue about people rallying around saying that, look, until and unless you are able to get to a particular crescendo in terms of power and funds, let me tell you the truth about the future of Nigeria. Most of these things that you see playing out are certainly going to give way. It is just a matter of time.
Thank you, sir. Prof.
I'm not Nostradamus, the man who saw tomorrow, but I say so.
Prof, in 10 seconds, your final words, please.
Yeah, my final word is that if Peter Obi and Kwankwaso, if they can mobilize, if they can be patient, and then stick together, they have a wonderful brand that they have to sell to Nigerians. Let them stick together, and then be patient. Let them be patient. They seem to be in a hurry. You cannot just sow and just reap immediately. Atiku had sowed. That is why he's waiting to reap.
All right,
so
all right, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof. We have to go right now. Thank you so much, Prof.
Just like that.
All right, sir.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, sir, for coming. Well, here's where I draw the curtains on today's edition of the show. I'm very much behind schedule. Thank you, Luka Pampi and Professor Aduba, for joining us this morning. It's been an exciting 57 minutes with you, but do not worry. By 10 o'clock, the news will be on your airways. From me to you, stay out of trouble, spread love, and seek the truth. Bye, people.
From the city, the hood, the streets, we understand the sound of the plateau.
101.9 FM. The pulse of the plateau.
Yabba shakata wajen more kira da naira 100 ka salamu kudin ka sai MTN da kuna samun matsala wurin kira dan ba ku da kati to sauki ya samu in ka sa naira 100